Led Zeppelin introducing us right there. And that's in honor, by the way, of our guest who's coming up at 12:30 or so. 1:30 Pacific time here in Sorry, just checking with a producer to make sure everything's all right. But at 1:30 Pacific time, and that's 4:30 Eastern time, Brian Slagle, my favorite metalhead, will be joining us. So that was in honor of him, because I always argue with him because he's like the only guy in the world I know that doesn't like Led Zeppelin. So I just played that. That's a deep cut there from Led Zeppelin from the Dakota album. But so we'll back to my point. We're here live at T-Mobile Arena, and I don't even know. It's like our 10th annual pregame show. But Mike McMahon is usually with me on the podcast. Was unable to make this trip, so he's out there listening. We wish him well, but he's doing all right. Everything's fine. But he'd usually be here beside me. He has been every other year. And like I said, we have the usual cavalcade of guests. Carrie Eads is expected to join us later, former North Dakota player, national champion, and longtime assistant coach with North Dakota. Now is a coach in the USHL. One of the main reasons why he's here, I mean, I'd welcome him in no matter what, but North Dakota and Wisconsin, which is the first game here at T-Mobile Arena coming up in a couple of hours, is the first time those two teams have met at the Frozen Four, when it wasn't called the Frozen Four, but since 1982 national championship game, which was won by North Dakota, and Carrie Eads was on that team. And if you read our story, which is on College Hockey News, actually right on the front page, check it out. It's that was the same year as the famed water bottle incident, which we'll get into with him. But that's been talked to death a zillion times. But that game had a lot more – that national championship game had a lot more going on with it. Our story is focused more so on the fact that had the most ever games played, future games played in the NHL by participants on the two teams. So, which, I mean, by far. And check out our story. It's over 10,000 games played by the participants combined. And the next highest is I think it's Boston College, Wisconsin in 2010, which is the last time Wisconsin was in the Frozen Four. That is around 8,500. And the 1982 game is well over, like I said, well over 10,000. So interesting, certainly, that little tidbit. But we'll get into plenty of that. There's lots of other things to talk about. We'll talk about the Hobie race. Like I said, obviously we're here for the pregame show, but the pregame show is almost a misnomer because we talk about a lot more than just that. Get into the state of college hockey. We're going to have Rick Gotkin on, former Mercyhurst coach who just retired. And, of course, Mercyhurst season, or program rather, was just scrapped. And there will be, obviously, it always happens when a program is eliminated that there's a groundswell to try to bring it back and fundraise and all that stuff. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. It worked with Robert Morris a few years ago. You know, obviously American International last year dropped to Division II, and there wasn't much push there. So, you know, we'll see what happens with that. But we got 2 hours to do this and plenty to talk about. As I said, one of the things, before we bring in our representatives from North Dakota and Wisconsin to do the preview here. It's going to be Brad Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald, who has been on this program many times. All know him well, one of the top national voices, even though he works for the Grand Forks Herald. He's one of the guys who's on top of things all over the country, which is why we love talking to him. And there's very few of those people around these days. There used to be a lot. We were lamenting that here just recently with some of the old-timers who now – you know, the gray beards literally have gray beards now. Some of the people I've known. My first Frozen Four was 1997 in Milwaukee. And, you know, for many years it was the same people you'd see, you know, whether that be SIDs, people who work for the school, coaches, writers. I mean, nowadays coaches don't tend to go to the Frozen Four that much anymore. I mean, I rarely. It used to be like you'd see almost like a lot of the other coaches from college hockey would be sitting there in a certain section, and you could just see them all there. And really doesn't happen that much anymore. It really started to change 10 years ago probably, and has dwindled down, and you don't see a lot. But and then writers, I mean, there's so few newspapers nowadays, and it's been replaced with some of the online people, social media influencers, people who come and go though more often. I mean, maybe that will stick for 20 years. I don't know, but you don't see some of those old media guys around anymore. And it's like I said, not even that they've been replaced with younger people, which would be great, but it's just that it's disappeared. And so anyway, whatever. Old man shouting at the clouds, but it's a little different environment these days at the Frozen Four than it was back in 1997. So. But like I said, we're going to bring in some of our guests here shortly. I do want to get into some of the issues, though, during the course of this show. Recently, it's just came out, it's been in the news about the executive order that the president put out that was hoped to rein in some of the issues with college sports. We don't know yet how much that will go through, but it did spur a reaction from the NCAA where they said, at least the 5 years of eligibility with an age cutoff may be something they're going to look at first. And so as we bring in guest just number one, check out Brad Schlass. We're going to talk about that before we get into the North Dakota, Wisconsin stuff. And just make sure you're on check your, no, this one.
Yeah, one.
There you go. All right. Going to have to hold that close just because of the ambient noise there. But we'll bring in our Wisconsin guest in a second. But first, let me, just talk to Brad about, that NCAA. There's been a lot of talk on social media last night after the NCAA picked up the executive order thing and said, well, maybe that 5-year eligibility with the age cutoff is something we're going to actually tackle in the NCAA first. And my immediate reaction was that I feel bad for, not even hockey, but field hockey or track. I don't know I think it'll affect them worse, but I was thinking about how it will affect hockey if you had 5 years of eligibility with an age 24. I don't know, just curious if you had the same reaction. I don't know if it'll really matter that much.
Well, I was curious is it 5 years of eligibility or is it 5 years to complete your 4?
I've been trying to get a handle on that, but it sounds to me like 5 years of eligibility.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm just going with that for now. But they're trying to rein in red shirts that last till 27 and whatnot. But I think it makes it sound like you could have 5 years. Now the thing is, if you cut it off at 24, and if you're a 20-year-old freshman, 21-year-old coming out junior, you're not going to have 5 years anyway, right? And then if you're an 18-year-old going to college hockey, how many of them last?
Correct.
3, right? So,
yeah.
But it might matter on the margins. I don't know, but I was more concerned about college athlete in general, who's now I got 5 years. What's that going to do to the opportunities? It shrinks the opportunities for high school seniors, basically.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I guess in hockey it won't be a big deal. I don't know. What was your...
Yeah, I didn't have a huge takeaway. They had the COVID years. Some guys did stick around for their 5th year. So we got a little bit of a taste of it during that time. But, the other thing is if the clock does start ticking at 19, that will impact junior hockey. You're going to see guys, fewer guys that are staying in juniors till they're 20 or, 21. So,
yeah. It's interesting. So many moving parts, right? I don't know, that executive order, it's like one of those things where it won't go into effect till August 1st, if at all.
I honestly didn't even read it because I was like, this has no teeth to it, really. So, I know. It was like, I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this right now because it needs to be legislated in a different way.
I think the idea is that it'll inspire Congress, right? But what are the odds that our dysfunctional Congress will actually have that happen? So anyway.
Low.
Well, let me bring in Kedrick here as well. Kedrick, you good?
Oh,
Can we hear you?
How you doing?
Okay, you're good. Just hold it as close as you can there to the microphone. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yeah, that's right.
Kendrick.
There's no secret N in there, which people love to say, but
yeah,
it's
right,
understandable.
right. No Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, no.
Right. But Badger Breakaway, and how long you been doing that?
I've been that itself for about a year, but been around since how long ago now? 2022.
Yeah. And what's it's web, right, on the web?
Yeah, correct. BadgerBreakaway.com. Breakaway, like you're going in on a goalie on your own.
Yeah, I don't have much experience with that myself, but so listen, let's talk Wisconsin, North Dakota. Obviously, these two teams, have a long history, but not as much recent history. So, Brad goes back a bit farther than you do, but it's an exciting matchup. I didn't think Wisconsin honestly had a shot in the regional the way they finished the year. So I don't know how you felt, but it's like a surprise. But maybe they're getting it back together right in time. Who knows?
Look, when you saw Wisconsin take that loss in the Big Ten tournament, that was their second worst postseason loss on home ice ever. The only other time they lost worse was to Colorado College in the WCHA tournament, and that team turned into the Backdoor Badgers. And so now, right here again, after the only loss worse, Wisconsin's here in the Frozen Four. I was certainly shocked to see them get this far, but after they got past Dartmouth and you get a Michigan State team that they split against, kind of looked like anything could happen. Just about anything did happen there in that game. Get a few past Trey Augustine quick on a couple of bouncing pucks, and off you go.
Was that Speak of the Devil, Logan Hensler right there? Was it?
That is him, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to get to that next because just walked by. I guess he tore an ACL or whatnot, so he's out for the year. It's unfortunate. So, when you look back on it and say they had an awful January, I mean, maybe, that could be a lot of the explanation for it, right? So,
yeah, I think, you lose 6 games, and really that's – I'm trying to make sure I got the timeline right here. That's 2 against Michigan, 2 against Michigan State on home ice. The 2 at Minnesota, a worst in a generation Minnesota team, are the 2 that really stick out. But the other 2 can be excused. They got that loss to a good Western Michigan team at the Quick Trip Holiday Face-Off in there. But otherwise, you got to wipe out some injury stuff. They lose their 2 top centers during January, and once they get a little bit healthier, like you mentioned, Logan Hensler still out, first-round NHL draft pick, but they kind of got back on the horse. It's not a perfect hockey team. I understand why they are kind of the fourth fiddle here, but they kind of went back to what they were at the right time of the season.
And we've seen plenty of Mike Hastings at Frozen Fours, right? So with Minnesota State. So it's really not a shock from that standpoint, Brad. I know you think as highly of him as most of us. So if anyone, I guess, can whip him into shape at the right time. I mean, from the North Dakota perspective, I mean, what do you is there a vulnerability that Wisconsin could even do?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I had them number 5 preseason.
Right, I know you
at
did.
Christmas time, they're number 3, so I'm not super shocked to see them here.
Yeah.
I like the team a lot.
Yeah.
I think when you pull back some of their analytics, they're really good. They're like the second best team at even strength. Their face-off numbers are top 5. Their offense is high. Their power play is high. All their analytics are good, except penalty killing, goaltending are they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So if they get the goaltending that they got in the regional, they can win the thing. If they don't, they're not going to win the thing.
That's the one thing that is a wild card, obviously, because Mike Hastings is not going to sit there and say, "Oh, he was the reason why we didn't win enough games down the stretch," right? But just looking at the numbers, .899 save percentage is much lower than anybody else in the tournament. So obviously, when you have defensive issues, that's going to be an issue. But he had a great start and then tailed off. So, but it's not like they have any better option, right? So,
yeah.
No, I think Eli Pulver provided them in that, some good relief when they needed it. Hauser was battling with some injuries at certain points of the season, but they've clearly settled on Hauser as the option here. And Look, North Dakota has a really good power play too, right? I think both these teams are top 5 power play units, top 7, something
Their
like that.
Their numbers are really close in like every category.
Really close. Yes, the only place they're really different is defensively, and Wisconsin, their bugaboo all year has been just, I've run out of ways to provide adjectives that aren't too mean of how to describe their penalty kill, because it's just horrendous at times, and they struggle to stay out of the box on occasion too, which seems a little bit odd for what should be a well-disciplined Mike Hastings team. But if they can't stay out of the box today, it might be a long day for them. But in the regional, they were perfect on the PK.
Yeah,
shocking, but that's how they are here.
Well, I don't want to get into this issue. You guys can both chime in before we get to North Dakota specifically. Mike Hastings came in, great first season, and it was like catching lightning in a bottle. And then last year went way down. And I always felt like, some of the it's stupid. I hate even giving it life, social media. Go, oh, my God, maybe he's not the right guy. But but I always felt like he almost was a victim of his own success that first year, like coming in and so quickly, whipping them into shape, and then last year was sort of a letdown. But it's like almost was reverse of if it happened the other way around, everyone would be fine. But my point is, it's not like Wisconsin dipped into the $500,000 or $200,000 player in order to turn things back around. It's like Quinn Finley, Christian Fitzgerald, Simon Tassi, the guys he brought from Minnesota State in the first place. These are his guys in his mold. And do you think at some point they are going to try to go after that kind of player, or is it just going to be Mike Hastings is I'm going to do it my way and the way I'm used to?
Maybe. They have shown a willingness to dabble in the new world. They brought in a handful of guys from the CHL for the offseason, right? We're talking about Daniel Hauser. He's a CHL guy.
Yeah, but not the they didn't go after.
They don't have a fresh.
Right. I'm not saying these are the same.
Yeah.
I'm saying just because we haven't seen them do that game, play that game, bring out those big deals, doesn't mean they won't. I don't know. It would be interesting. It's not like they have. Wisconsin is certainly a team that over the years has brought in and produced NHL talent. One of the leading goal scorers in the NHL right now, for example, in Cole Caulfield. But I think next year this roster could look quite a bit different depending on who might elect to go pro, who might elect to transfer. So maybe there will be holes they have to fill that way. But
I was going to say, Brad, before I think that even Cole Caulfield and all those, that's before Mike Hastings, right? If none of this NIL stuff existed, I think this is the roster that Mike Hastings would want to do. I just wonder, though, if he's going to have to,
Well, everyone was asking that when he came in there. But, remember, his Minnesota State teams went and beat up on Big Ten teams all the time. Right. And I think he said he had to have looked at that and said, is our philosophy better than what they're doing? And we're getting a really great experiment. As of sitting back and watching it as an observer, it's fascinating to watch to see how it would work. Yeah. But this is the other thing he's kind of done is we talk about the NCHC versus Big Ten. Wisconsin's kind of an NCHC team.
Kidding, right.
They're built like an NCHC team.
Right. But I'd imagine Wisconsin. I'm not saying obviously football and basketball get money, so it's not like these hockey teams have oodles of money that they're going to throw around.
They have more money than North Dakota does.
Yeah, you're right. So
they can go get a first-round pick.
He could do it if he wanted
to. Wisconsin also just enacted a law yesterday that frees up another $14.6 million in annual funds for the university athletic department. So that
what was that law? I gotta hear that. Isn't Wisconsin dealing with the school chancellor? I guess president's getting run out the door.
That's another thing, but that's unrelated. But it's always an interesting day when your sport is run by a public school, right? You can't avoid the politics.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, let's get to North Dakota here for a bit. Because as their cheerleaders go by, so thank you very much. But. This is talk about, like you just said, the way that we've talked about this to death, the way Dane Jackson molded the team the way he wanted to with the big, heavy team and whatnot. So we're really seeing it play out. But is there a vulnerability? If you said, you got to make sure they do this, like we talked about with Wisconsin staying out of the box, that kind of thing. It's just, I don't know what the vulnerability is right now.
I mean, I think one thing that every game comes back to at the end of the tournament, you need your goalie to be good. Like, I went back and was thinking about the national champs in recent years. So last year's national champ, Hampton Slakinski, he was really good.
Right. Yeah.
2024, Matt Davis was out of his mind in that tournament. 2023, Yaniv Peretz, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Krona played amazing.
Yeah.
Lindbergh played unreal
Even
for UMass.
Even guys who were up and down during
Hunter
the year.
Shepard, yes, exactly. Not all these guys were great during the year, but they were great in the tournament, and that's like one common thread. Like Jan Spunar last weekend was phenomenal.
Yeah.
If they get that Jan Spunar, they're going to be
so blasé. That kid.
He is.
He's like, whatever. I've done this before.
That's been the talk of all the head coaches, these freshman goaltenders, they're all very cool, calm, collected. It's just they're steady as a rock.
Well, that's the story we had on College Hockey News I put up last night from Jane McNally. She did a great job. But because everyone's been talking about the freshmen being all freshmen, but not only that, but all 4 are major junior players.
Yeah.
So there's that's the piece that I think is different. Because in 2009 there were 3 freshmen. There might have been another year where there were 3 freshman starters. But I remember 2009 being that first time where there was 3 freshmen. And but this is not that, right? This is 4 guys who have been through a lot.
2 guys who are old.
Yeah.
Daniel Hauser's 22 years old, and Spunar's turning 22.
And Ivan Kovic has played in every big tournament.
Yeah.
So and then Johnny Hicks. I mean, I don't know, but that's a different story. He just keeps proving everybody wrong. I'm fascinated by the fact that everywhere he goes, some other guy beats him out for the job, and he bides his time all year until he gets a chance, and then all of a sudden he gets a .940 save percentage and shuts everybody up, and then he has to do it all again the next year. So fascinating.
Yeah, it's I mean, I think
is that a trend we're going to see now? Yeah. Former major junior goalies.
Well, I mean, major we'll see.
Yeah.
I think goalies come from all over.
Yeah.
And major junior, remember the Canada had a goalie crisis for a while back, and they were like, we're not going to let Euros come into major juniors for a while because we need to develop more Canadian juniors. I watched quite a bit of the WHL, and there's a lot of goaltenders in the WHL I wouldn't want starting for me.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are some really good players. Michigan State's going to get Ravensburg next year, and he's a high-end goalie. But, yeah, I mean, the funny part is you mentioned Ivan Kovic, but I think a lot of people expected him to have a good year. The other 3 goalies here, I'm not sure anyone would have penciled those guys in, maybe even as their starters. Gibson Homer was the starter at the start of the year here.
That's
Johnny
true.
Hicks was not starting at Denver. A lot of these guys goalies are voodoo, right? Who knows? You just don't know.
I really enjoy the fun fact that Gibson Homer is at 6'6" is the tallest goaltender in North Dakota history. It's a fun fact I really enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, Jan Spunar might be the second at 6'3".
Yes, but
Peter Tome.
You're right. But I was going to say, North Dakota has a fine history of small goalies winning championships.
They did. And they actually have I was like, man, freshman goalies winning national titles.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, their last freshman to start in a tournament, 09 did. Hammer last year. Peter Menino did it.
Was he a freshman? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the second year.
Yes. Correct, because Burkholder, Adam Burkholder is 04.
Yeah.
Menino was 05, and then there's one other one. Oh, Kieran Milan.
Oh, yeah, that was 09, yeah.
Yeah, and then John Muse, he was a freshman.
Yeah, what year was that? That would have been
08, right? 8 or 10.
Right, I can't think, who knows? They all blur together, man.
But
this is my 28th Frozen Four, by the way, so they all blur together.
I think
is this your first?
This is my first on the men's side, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yes.
I think 14?
Yeah. You don't go to all of them, right?
Yeah,
but,
no.
So 14 total, in and out. Yeah, the women's hockey, I mean, geez, that's the juggernaut, beyond. You deal with Mark Johnson a lot, I'm sure. It's like you can't get any better than that.
It's certainly... It's easy to write the stories, right? That makes my job easy. You know what you're going to be writing about most of the time. It's just finding new ways to write about very similar things.
Yeah. Well, I don't expect you to care about this, but my last question you could chime in, but I think while the fans of these 4 teams are absolutely loving what's going on this year, obviously, are we Are we going to see this become a trend where only NCHC teams and Big Ten teams are in this Frozen Four every year? I know you already poo-pooed that the last time you brought it up, but
yeah,
I worry about it. But
I asked Mike Hastings about this last week, actually, and obviously he has a background from the CCHA and got there twice, and his answer was pretty clearly like, no, he thinks there's good teams kind of from anywhere. They can come up from anywhere. It's not just the big brands. And Duluth, yes, an NCHC team, but he pointed them out and said, look, that's not the big brand blue blood necessarily, and they were on the doorstep of being here too. And you just had Western Michigan win the title. I think it's really easy to point to this as an example of, maybe this is coming. And we had in men's basketball a handful of years ago, we had the Final Four that was Duke, Carolina, Kansas, Villanova, and you're asking the same question. And, then you got FAU shortly thereafter.
But those guys are getting $1 million, and these guys are getting $50,000. So
Hockey East teams paying more money to their players than anyone in the NCHC.
Not many, but yeah,
there are though.
not many. Maybe 2, maybe 3. Roger McQueen got some significant money at Providence. UMass hasn't really done it yet, but I know they're planning to. BU, yes, $50,000, but that also backfired on them, so I'm not sure what's going to happen going forward. But that in BC for sure is at least in the 50 to 100,000 category, and for a couple of guys. Now, I mean, I don't know. You always say, Brad, that Reshny and Verev did not really get that much to come here. But I was going to say, I talked to 20 guys yesterday. Like, what is your opinion on the money and hockey? Every single one of them said the same thing, of course, diplomatically. Like, I would have come here for free. I'm all about the team. Now, sure, that's great, but some of them didn't come there for free, so it's easy to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had been to an NIL meeting where they were talking to the boosters, and the line that they used, they said, if it gets into a bidding war, we're gonna lose. We're out. We're gonna lose. Yeah. So they said it, but they said for somebody, it just can't be zero.
Right.
We need to at least be in the game, get them something, and then see if they come. But if it gets into a bidding war, those schools are going to lose. So I think it is important to have something.
I don't know if you have last thoughts on that, but I'm waiting for Carrie Eads, by the way, so maybe you can help me find him.
We'll see. I think money's going to keep coming, and that's what the sport is now. Ultimately, I think college sports are unpredictable, and I think it'll probably stay that way regardless of the money that comes in.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. I don't know. I'm a fan of all the little guys, so people in North Dakota get on my case. East Coast. It really is I don't have any bias really, other than the fact that I like to see different teams be there.
I will say, I thought this is the best the CCHA has been since I've seen it.
Everybody was around 18 to 20.
Yeah,
in the
they were good. No one wanted Augie to play Augie in the first round with Kotai and that. They had some. There's some good teams.
Good, but not good enough.
They weren't good enough this year. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, Minnesota State. Gave Western another good game this year. They did last year.
Yeah.
But it's harder though. I mean, I think anyone who says it's not harder is kind of kidding themselves. But hopefully.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right, we'll see.
I mean, I guess we don't have a large sample size right now. But I'm there have been a lot of new champions in recent years. We think about the powerhouse schools. Who do you think? Like Michigan, Minnesota, the Big Ten schools. Since the last Big Ten national title winner, we've seen Yale win, Quinnipiac win.
I know, that's
Duluth.
Ancient freaking history at this point.
Union. I mean, Quinnipiac did it 2 years, 3 years, 3 now.
I think they're going to be okay. They're going to have money. Quinnipiac's going to have money. That school just keeps pumping money into everything. They want to be they're like the leading pollster in national politics now. They just want to be the front runner of everything. So somehow they're finding money under the sheets there. So I'm not worried. So I'm not worried about them. It's funny because all the ECAC schools always complain about Quinnipiac. So they shouldn't be in our league because they're too good. Whatever. It's all whatever. As I said to a couple coaches yesterday when we were talking about this, all this, I hate talking about all this stuff, but it is fascinating, I will say. So,
Yeah.
guys, I'll let you go because theoretically, if Brad wants to go help me find him, that would be great. But
if I see him, I'll send him.
Kedrick Stumbris from Badger Breakaway, Brad Schlossman, Grand Forks Herald. Thank you, guys. All right. On my way. There you go. Well, so we'll kill a little time. But thank you, guys, again. And we are here, let's see, an hour and a half now before the start of the game between Wisconsin and North Dakota. And we'll talk Michigan and Denver coming up a bit later, as we got another hour and a half to go here on our College Hockey News pregame show. Again, check out the website, collegehockeynews.com. If you may be listening through the website still, it's, right-click, new tab, check out our front page, all the great articles. My sidekick, Anthony, here, had while you were covering North Dakota, right, Anthony? Yesterday? All right, so he's got his story. And stories galore to get you all fired up and ready to go for the Frozen Four, which starts here in a little bit. I mean, the games are going to be great. They always are. And there's no issue with that. All these issues, I've said this all year long with college hockey and the money and what's going to happen and all the crazy transferring and, which is really maybe the bigger problem that we didn't really get into with these guys. But it goes hand in hand because sometimes, the transfers get lured away because of the money, or at least a little bit. And this is what happens. So, but, the games themselves are still great. So as a hockey fan, just generally, I mean, I'm always happy to watch the games and get into them. But like I said, I love to see different teams here all the time. It was always cool. There was a new champion. Last year we had one with Western Michigan, Quinnipiac a couple years before that. First-time champions are kind of just fun to see, or at least be in the mix here at the Frozen Four. So I don't know. I don't want that to go away. But, it is what it is going forward. So, the transfer rules are really, again, they're all sort of obviously hand in hand with this stuff. But we're going to see how teams adapt. I mean, we had our special report that I've had on my first two parts of, again, on College Hockey News. It's been there up for a couple weeks now. I talked to a gazillion people about this issue, and we had part one of our special report had to do with transferring and tampering and that kind of stuff that goes on. And then, all just how teams are handling that. And then part two was the money, who has it, who doesn't, how they're getting it, what they're going to do with it. How are you? Yeah, take a seat there. As, let's see, Carrie Eads is going to join us now. And let me make sure, check your mic. Just
test one,
there
2, 3.
There you go. There you go. Hold on. I'm going to make sure I let everybody know that you're here. But welcome and thank you. But you're all decked out. So I was going to say, you don't have to stay neutral in this or anything. I mean, we all know where your allegiances are. But I appreciate you stopping in. I want to make sure I update this here. There we go. Okay. So you're wearing the shirt that says NCAA 1980 champs. We're focusing as much, in this game on the fact of the 82 champs, because that team played Wisconsin, obviously. But the 80 team, I think I read stories back in the day that said that, that you thought that team was more talented than the 82 team.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to pick between the two teams, but, really proud to be on both of them. And, we won in 80 and 82, and the Badgers won in 81 and 83. So 4 years of dominance there between the two schools. And it's very ironic that North Dakota and Wisconsin have not met in the Frozen Four since 1982. So that's what brings us here today, and they'll be making their own history.
Yes, and obviously, I appreciate that you reached out after reading my story about the 82 National Championship game, because the fascinating part about that, and of course, as we kind of joked around about, everyone alludes to the water bottle incident that happened earlier that year. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I thought, the fascinating part to me was just how much future NHL talent was in that game. And I don't know if at the time people realized, was Bruce Driver going to play 1,000 NHL games? Was James Patrick going to play 1,000 NHL games? But it turned out that way. So when you say 80 may have been more talented, it turns out 82 was just off the charts.
It was, and talent in different ways. Our 80 team was probably, more rough and tough and bruising type, The 82 team had more younger skill, but the biggest thing that happened to college hockey was the 1980 Olympic team winning the gold medal. That gave credibility to the college hockey player. Up until then, the statistics can show how few college hockey players made it to the NHL,
right.
and a lot of those players went directly. I played with Dave Christian at North Dakota, and he went right from the Olympic team to the NHL and never looked back. Had a long career, but that was really the stepping stone to give us the credibility. And then 81, 82 years, players really took advantage of that, and we're getting great college or great pro contract offers, and the Cheliosas and James Patricks, Troy Murrays of the world just rode that to long careers.
Yeah, and obviously we just lost Troy Murray, so
yeah.
Condolences on that. That was tough, but he was he was the prototypical third-line center in the National Hockey League. There's won face-offs like crazy, and just he had again just forged out a great NHL career.
Tremendous player, tremendous person. Left this world far too young.
Yeah.
Won the Selke Award for the NHL's best defensive player. He had 99 points that year.
Right.
So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he. Always was matched up against the other team's top scorer, the Gretzkys of the world. And, because of that, in those days, a lot of the good players never really played defense that much. Nowadays, they're more 200-foot players. So he'd take advantage of that and have the puck in the offensive zone and score at the other end. But, we lost him to battle of cancer here recently. And, it's tough.
Yeah, I know. It's, don't even. But definitely our condolences to him and his family.
Thank you.
Again, that 82 game, Phil Sykes was the one who had the hat trick. Again, he played almost 500 NHL games as well. I don't know, what was he like as a teammate, I guess?
Oh, it's a great teammate. We played 4 years together, both from the province of British Columbia, so we had a lot in common. Phil not only had a hat trick in the national championship game, he had hat tricks in both games at the end of the regular season, which allowed us to sweep Wisconsin that weekend and then secure the McNaughton Cup for the WCHA first place, and then also clinch the NCAA playoff berth. Wisconsin had to go through the playoffs, actually beat us in the playoffs, and so the national title game in '82. It was the 7th game in 2.5 months between the two schools. Each school was 3-3, 3 wins, 3 losses, and it was 2-2 entering the third period. That's how close and competitive the teams were.
Yeah, and was Chris Chelios, as much of a pain in the neck to play against then as he became in the NHL?
He was just a freshman then.
Yeah.
Great player.
Yeah.
Great player. Actually, I heard he was going to go to North Dakota, and then James Patrick committed, and he ended up going to Wisconsin, which
James
worked
Patrick
out well.
Was on the '84 Olympic team. Chelios, I don't think, made that. He was on the '88. No. I'm trying to remember. Was he on the '84 team too?
I'm not sure. But both. James played 21 years, and they're like 24 years, so it just kept going, and you never thought in those days that the players you're playing with and against we're going to have that long NHL careers, because nobody had done it till that point. So they were groundbreaking players, and Chelios was just starting to be a pain in the ass. But great player. Loved the way he played, and didn't like playing against them.
Where are you from again originally?
Vancouver, Canada.
Right?
Yep.
So when that 80 was happening, the Olympics, first of all, there weren't any North Dakota players on that team. It was basically all Minnesota.
Well, Dave Christian was on it.
Dave Christian. I always forget that he played for North Dakota. I don't know why. I don't have that blank, because he played in the NHL for Minnesota.
Yeah.
So somehow I get that. Anyway, So my apologies. But you as a Canadian, though, and the other guys in the team, did it affect you the same way? Because, in a way, like you said, it was cool that all these college players won that gold medal, and that helped college hockey, but you're a Canadian, so I don't know if you had that same feeling.
Well, we lived all through it. In '79, I was a freshman, and North Dakota won the WCHA at Minnesota the last weekend of the year, so they had the 8 Olympians plus Herb Brooks, Neil Broughton, and all the players, and we were able to beat them in the final game of the regular season to win, and we also met in the national championship game in Detroit. Gophers got us by a goal there and won the title. So we had some really close ties to the team. Not some very welcoming ties. Quite frankly, I'm a U.S. citizen now and been involved with USA Hockey, but probably the worst I was ever welcomed in the United States was the Gopher fans in '79, because they were all Minnesota kids. So they let us know time and time again that they were a little anti-Canadian, but that ended up changing, which is kind of weird because Lou Nanny, one of their great alumni, grew up in Canada. So anyways, that's kind of smoothed over. They've kind of lost that adage. But we were pulling for the college guys. We played University of North Dakota played the U.S. Olympic team in '80. We played the Canadian team, and we played the Japanese team. All three teams in exhibition. So, it was a unique period in hockey.
I remember that Japanese team getting smoked in that Olympics. That was rough. But no, the rivalries were so great, and I know so many people lament the fact that the WCHA doesn't really exist anymore, and all these teams used to be all playing each other and killing each other all the time. I watched some of those old videos, and the energy, the fans it was just so rabid. I mean, not that there isn't today. It's just, I don't know, it's a little different. I don't know if everyone just is nicer these days or what. Everyone kind of gets along better. I mean, as much as people are at their throats now, I mean, back then it was just really
Well, hockey was different then, obviously with the water bottle brawl and, there's a lot of fighting and, it's cleaned up quite a bit. You don't have to worry necessarily about losing your life on the hockey rink. But, one of the neat things that happened through this 4-year period, like the worst of the feelings was '82, because the water bottle incident brought up a lot of bad feelings between the two schools, us beating them in the national championship game. And then lo and behold, the next year, I wasn't there, I graduated in '82, but in '83, Wisconsin beat UND in the playoffs and knocked them out of the national tournament. And actually UND hosted that year. Wisconsin made it all the way through and played in the Final Four in Grand Forks, and Grand Forks fans cheered for Wisconsin. And ever since then, they had a real common bond, and that kind of flipped it back to more camaraderie. They had one thing in common: they both hated the Gophers.
Of course. That was the quote that I pulled out of the Verge Foss's article there from '82, where you were saying, "Come on, guys, you got to cheer for us against those Eastern teams." I mean,
they sure did.
Yeah. I know that bugged you at the time, but it's funny. Like, what made me chuckle about that is because it's like the same arguments we're having today. Like, should you root for the team in your conference, or not? Is there your rival? I grew up as an ECAC guy, and I always felt like, after we killed each other in the ECAC tournament, then you kind of root for them in the NCAA tournament. Yes. But not everyone feels the same way, so I don't know.
No, that's for sure.
But what was I going to say? It was funny, too, because nowadays it's like these kids all know each other, and you see everyone on YouTube and streaming and all the games. But back then there was such a mystery. Probably who are these Eastern schools? I remember talking to Mark Fusco he was the '83 Hobie winner, and he played for Harvard. They lost in the championship game that year to Wisconsin, I think. Yeah. And I talked to him 20 years ago at this point, but he was like, when he went out to the Frozen Four that year in '83, and they had a banquet, and they're all sitting around the table, and they mixed the teams together. He said their guys from the West were asking him if they had an indoor rink. Like, that's how little they knew about, really, at Harvard, do you guys skate indoors? It was like they were aliens to each other.
Yeah, we didn't know much about each other. No internet, nothing. You made your decision on your college team and didn't know any of the teammates, where they were from. Yeah, it was very unknown, especially East-West, as you were speaking. One of the things that changed that in the mid to late 80s, the WCHA and Hockey East formed a relationship, and that's what really kind of made the sport more nationwide, especially in the North, and it's regionalized, I know that, but that was a big step to kind of uniting the hockey world collegiately.
Yeah. No, I don't want to dwell on the water ball thing, but we have to at least, because I kind of, you got to laugh about it now, but just so everyone knows what we're talking about, it was a regular season game where there was a big fight that started with you essentially getting sprayed by a water bottle and getting upset at Wisconsin, and someone punched you, right? And then next thing you know, the whole world is falling apart. But what I thought was, that was a little before my time, but I started covering as a student in '88, so it was a little before me. But going back now, that the fact that those games are on YouTube, I actually watched the video they have it up there from North Dakota's broadcasters
Yes.
and then Wisconsin's broadcasters, and listening to the Wisconsin broadcasters, like just Bill Howard and Paul Braun lose their minds over this, was one of the funniest. It was probably not funny at the time, but I just got a kick out of it.
Yeah, they're a little biased. That's the North Dakota. Yeah, you watch both videos. They're reviewing the same footage, but it's totally different stories. And yeah, that was a wild one. You know, things like that are probably not involved in the game anymore. It's a good thing, but it kind of overshadowed a little bit of really the true competitiveness through the teams. As I mentioned, the 7-game series tied going into the last period. We were able to overcome that, but
that's
anyways,
what it was,
unfortunately, we got YouTube, and it'll never die. You know, I had a pretty good career at North Dakota. Scored 85 goals or whatever, and a bunch of points, and played with some great players. And that's all anybody really wants to talk about.
I know.
But
I don't want to dwell.
It is what it is.
I just got a kick out of the Wisconsin broadcasters losing their minds.
I just took some pictures with some Sioux fans and North Dakota fans. They had water bottle T-shirts made up for today. You know, of course, it kind of dies, but then if North Dakota wasn't playing Wisconsin, it wouldn't be a story today. But anyways, it is what it is, and it's something to talk about.
We'll talk about something else. But Jim Archibald, by the way, was a freshman on that team.
Yes,
wound up becoming the record holder for most penalty minutes, which would never happen today. I mean, nowadays you see the most you see in a season is like 50 penalty minutes. Yeah. And back then he had like almost 200 one year. I mean, was he really?
I think he had over 500 minutes in his 4 years, and Archie was a little crazy. In fact, we were just joking the other day. Pound for pound, one of the toughest players ever. He's fought some heavyweights in the NHL, and he was a middleweight. And we were reviewing the footage of the 82 championship game, and lo and behold, you know, we're going to try to see the celebration at the end of the game, but with 10 seconds left, the puck got dumped into the corner. Of course, he ran from one corner to the other just to nail the guy with 3 seconds left. Like, come on, Archie. Like, nowadays, people are smart enough. The play kind of stops. But no, he was so competitive. He wanted to get one last licking on a Badger. Yeah. And so then it kind of started a little skirmish. They didn't show our celebration around our goaltender until it was over. But anyways, that was Archie. Super competitive. You know, great player to play with. I actually not only played with him, I coached him at North Dakota because I came back 2 years later, was assistant. So had a great career, and you know, also developed a son Josh that played in the NHL for a lot of years.
For sure. I believe he played in Nebraska.
Yes, he did. Play for Dean Blaze at Nebraska.
That's right. But I was going to say I certainly expect a big North Dakota crowd as usual here. North Dakota's played some games here in the last few years already and brought big crowds in. But I was going to say I forget what I was going to say. You went on to obviously a coaching career, and you started, like you said, with Gino Gasparini was the head coach. What was he like to play for and then to work for?
Gino was a little general. Still is. We had a couple pops over at the Palms Hotel where the teams are staying with Coach Jackson. Brought him on the team plane. You know, he's like a father to us. So tough guy, but caring. You know, and Dean Blaze coached with him as I did, and you know, he was just a little general. You know, when he said jump, you said how high. But he had that unique you know, parallel. You could walk the line as a coach where he was really tough on you. You were scared crapless of him, but also he loved you and cared about your family. And he's Italian. Anybody with Italian roots knows how important family is, and he brought that into North Dakota. He was a former player and was an assistant coach in the 70s when they had a lot of tough years, and he brought back the pride and the tradition, and he's why North Dakota hockey is what it is today.
My Cornell, I told you, my ECAC roots.
Yeah, you got to show some love.
Go back 30 years with this guy.
Yeah.
All right, all good. Too bad Cornell's not here. I don't know, one of these days.
Yeah, I was very good friends with Coach Schaefer for a lot of years. What a man he is.
Oh, I mean, you know, talk about a guy who's tough, but loves his team.
Yeah, very similar to Gino.
Yeah. Just, you know, his team would go through a brick wall for him, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But then, you know, North Dakota's had many great coaches over the years since then. Obviously, Dean Blaze and Dave Hackstall, and then
Brad Berry,
won the championship in 2016. Were you still on? You weren't on that staff still
No,
at that point,
I left
right?
in 2012. Yeah.
Right.
And actually, Brad came back as an assistant under Dave. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, I think you coached Dane Jackson.
I did coach and recruited Dane.
Yeah.
Coach Brad Berry. Yeah. Coach Scott Sandlin at Duluth. Coach. Right. Yeah. So I'm an old fellow, but yeah, it was. The tradition has been passed on from one generation to the next, and it's a lot of fun. Same as Wisconsin. Coach Hastings, I've known him since he was a kid. He grew up in Crookston, Minnesota, not too far from Grand Forks.
Yeah.
And great man, and nice to see him resurge Wisconsin hockey again and get them back to the Frozen Four.
He's tremendous. I mean, obviously, I don't want to get into it, but I mean, it's tough last year with Brad and then moving to Dane.
Sure,
But I mean, obviously, Dane's done a great job.
Yeah. It was maybe time for a change.
Yeah.
There's arguments on both sides. I see it. Two of my best friends in my life, so it was tough on all of us that know him so well, but Dane's taken the baton and run with it, and we're proud of what he's done. We're proud of what Brad did as a player and a coach at North Dakota, both assistant and head. So, continue on, this year, and hopefully the boys can take it another step further, because it's been a lot of years since they've won it all. And we want that number 9.
I hear you. Well, before I let you go, I appreciate the time here with Kerry Eads, former North Dakota national champion. I mean, you're always a national champion. You're not a former champion. You're always a champion.
Yeah.
But did you ever think, players would be making $100,000 to play college hockey? I mean, that's just crazy.
Or the coaches, what they're making.
That's another story.
Yeah, I was a volunteer for 2 years. But anyways, no, it's outstanding. We got some Sioux fans here.
Of course.
But, just as long as the ticket prices stay reasonable. I mean, they're starting to get up there with pro athletics. I'm a baseball fan, and used to be able to go to a game for pretty reasonable. So that's the only thing. I don't begrudge them making money, the TV money, advertising, getting their share, everything. But just let's keep the ticket prices reasonable, and hopefully they've done some controlling of Ticketmaster and these different agencies that kind of people scalp tickets and bump it up. That's the only thing I care about. But a lot of my friends made a lot of money, and I've made a pretty good career over it. It's a lot of fun.
Long time in the USHL, right, with Fargo.
Yes.
So great job there. But I was going to say before, which team is your Twins? Is that your?
No, I'm a big St. Louis Cardinal fan.
Okay.
Actually, no. Well, I don't mind the Twins. Obviously, a lot of friends cheer for them, but no, big St. Louis Cardinal.
You and Derek Schooley at Robert Morris.
We talk all the time about it. We're two of the biggest. Whenever they do something good, we text each other. We've been to games together over the years. Good man, Derek.
Well, I appreciate you spending the time with us, and good luck to North Dakota today.
Nice talking with you, Adam, and thanks for all the college hockey news does for the game of hockey, college hockey and specifically, and everything you guys do. Much appreciated.
Really appreciate it.
We'll talk again sometime.
Good luck.
Take
care. All right, that's Kerry Eads. Once again, member of the 1980 and 82 national championship teams in North Dakota, longtime assistant coach for the Sioux and the Fighting Hawks, and then head coach at Fargo of the USHL. And great time talking to him. I was going to say, coming up here at the top of the hour, we should have Rick Gockin pretty soon. Is he down there? Okay. Yeah, and we're surrounded by Sioux here. You guys are everywhere. You're everywhere. This is what we love about you. And And thank you. He's holding court. Kerry Eads holding court here with all his fans, so I appreciate it. But, the Badger fans are here, too. There's enough of them wandering around. It's funny because I swear it used to be you go watch those old videos, and you watch that game with the 82, the brawl and whatnot, in Wisconsin. I mean, the band is first. I think it was at the Dane County Coliseum in Madison. The crowds are just insane. The band starts playing while the brawl is going on. They're going out of their minds, and it's just. I don't know, man. It's some of it's for the better, some of it's for the worse. The changes in college hockey over the years. I look back at old videos or even pictures of the ECAC tournament at Boston Garden, and just packed to the rafters, no matter who was playing in that tournament. And then at Lina Rink used to have, I think a lot of. We're going to bring Rick Gockin in here, by the way. I'm waxing poetic about the good old days, so you can come in here if you want. Yeah. I think this is the right one here. Yeah, there you go. Just hold it close. But I was just saying, I'm waxing poetic about the good old days here. But as like the crowds used to be a lot more rabid. I would say like at Liner Rink, the boards. First of all, they had like chicken wire in the 70s, and then they had like the boards that were like yay high, and fans were climbing over the glass. And now with the high glass and stuff, it's like, like keeping people in a cage. I don't know. It just used to be more rabid, it seemed like. I don't know if that's better or worse, but you tell me.
I think I think we all long a little bit for the good old days, right? I mean, it's the good old days. We didn't realize those were the good old days until you and I became a little bit older. But yeah, when you talk about a place like Liner Rink, I mean, the iconic building in the ECAC with Cornell's team in there. And, I think I would just say to all the great college hockey fans out there, if you get to one building, and there's a lot of beautiful buildings, as we all know, if you get to one place, you need to go see a game at Liner Rink.
Yeah, it's still pretty good. It's just, we just had Carrie Eads on, and we were talking about 82. There's this famous brawl, and I'm watching the video, and like, there's like 12,000 people in Madison just like foaming at the mouth, and the band is playing while the brawl is going on. It's like ridiculous. But you were at RPI, right, to get your start pretty much, and in 85, right? Yep. So we're just talking to Carrie Eads about the 82 national championship team, but 85 national championship team with Adam Oates and Darren Pupa and whatnot. I mean, that was some people say it's the best college hockey team they ever saw.
Yeah, they were quite a group, right? So I actually arrived there a year later in 86, right. But I believe they still talk about that group, the Pupas and the Oateses and the George Savinases and the John Cotters and Ken Hammond and, just an unbelievable collection of college hockey players that you're right. There were some people that thought they could play in the American Hockey League as a group right then.
We were talking about Gino Gasparini, obviously, because of the North Dakota championship teams, and then, how he's like, Carrie was saying, feisty Italian guy, tough, loved his players, though. Mike Odessa was that same kind of mold, too, I think,
Yeah, you know what? Coach Odessa, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
I mean, he's iconic. I mean, he was a polarizing figure, as you know. When he walked in a room, you knew he was there.
Yeah.
An unbelievable hockey coach. I thought he was so many years ahead of his time, Adam. One of the smartest people I've ever been around. I mean, both, academically and hockey-wise. He always treated me very well, right? I mean, he was his own man, and I know lots of people miss him, and he was very good for the game.
Yeah.
Very good for the game. But it was a different time back then, right?
Yeah. I can't remember if I've asked you this before. We're both Long Islanders, I think, originally, but whereabouts did you grow up?
So I was actually born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, well, that's where my dad was born.
Then my family moved to New High Park.
Okay.
Yep, so I was in New High Park for a while.
I was going to say, because when I was growing, a little younger than you, but I was in high school in the 80s, and there was no rinks on Long Island. There might have been one or two.
Skateland.
Yeah, so I was trying to remember, because nowadays there's 10 of them, and players come out of Long Island quite a bit, but back then nobody was coming out of Long Island.
Our claim to fame, Adam, and I'm sure a lot of people listening probably won't even recognize, Nick Fatiou.
Oh, yeah.
right? The Mullen brothers.
Right.
Of course,
they were like Manhattan guys.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. But, so Nick played, he was a New High Park Arrow, and he was older than me.
Okay.
But we had some really good college hockey players even back then.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, Long Island kids are coming out, left and right, and are making a huge impact, not just on college hockey, but even in professional hockey.
Yeah, no, it's pretty huge. I think there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of rinks out there now. So New High Park, that's right around. I definitely had family in that area. But how did you wind up then, playing college, right? I mean, how did that, how did that work in those days, right?
So I was an average, and I'm probably being kind. I was an average hockey player, but I loved it. Yeah. So I was once described as a kid with a big heart. And I think when you get described as a kid with a big heart, that's kind of like he's not that good.
Euphemism.
He's not that good. But I did love it, and I was a defenseman, and I was pretty much a 6, 7, 8 defenseman. Yeah. One of my next door neighbors' family actually owned Skateland back then,
right.
And he said, "Hey, want to come out and skate one day?" And I did. And one thing thing led to another, and I was playing hockey. And then I left to play in the New York Penn Junior Hockey League in Binghamton, New York.
Right.
For the Binghamton Barons.
Right.
And,
Broome County Arena.
Exactly. And we did that for 2 years, and then it was time to go to get off to college. And after looking around, I went up to SUNY Canton. At the time, it was just a 2-year school. Now it's a 4-year school. I played for the legendary Terry Martin, who, just gave you the love for the game, and it was great. And then continued my education, and I got really lucky at Brockport State 2 years later, playing for E.J. McGuire. God rest his soul. EJ was an unbelievable
great man.
You want to talk about a player's coach, Adam? Everybody, we'd want to go through a wall for EJ.
Yeah, no, he was so nice guy.
That worked out good, and then upon graduation, I was a phys ed major at Brockport, and upon graduation, I thought, well, maybe I'll get teaching a little bit, and I ended up going to Europe and Scotland, where I was a player coach. Mostly I was kind of coaching and not playing. And then the RPI situation came around. And Mike Odessa took a chance on me.
I was going to say, how did you just apply? And
I did. I did. I knew a couple people that had been there before that were no longer there, that had worked at RPI. And they said, it's a great place. I said, Rick, you know what? You work with Coach Odessa, you will know if you really want to be a hockey coach or not when you're done. Right? And that was really it.
And then to Mercyhurst.
Right after
the rest
that
is history.
Exactly. So in more ways than one.
Right.
But like I said, I applied for lots of jobs. I wanted to be a head coach. Landed at Mercyhurst as a 28-year-old. And I'm not sure it was a coveted job. I'm not sure a lot of people wanted it or knew much about it. I went thinking that maybe I'd be there for a year or two and maybe use some head coaching experience to maybe go to one of those big blue blood programs, and ended up meeting my wife in Erie, and we just loved we loved Mercyhurst, we loved Erie, Pennsylvania, having kids, and we've been there ever since. So 38 years. So
you went through a lot of changes in those 38 years. Unfortunately, we'll get to the most recent change, which is not great, but we'll get to that in a second. I don't want to dwell just on that, but we do want to get to it. But I was going to say all the changes throughout the years. What was the closest? Like you said, I know you were in the mix talking, maybe go to Siston even or to a bigger school. Was there, and now we can say, but was there ever a time you were the closest to maybe going somewhere?
I was. We were just talking about this last night. So after about maybe 3 or 4 years, one of my good friends, another Long Island guy, Bobby Mancini, who's an executive now with USA Hockey. Bobby was the head coach of Michigan Tech, right? So he flew Diane and I up there, and I'm thinking, there's no way Diane's going to like this place. Actually, she loved it.
Oh, really?
She absolutely loved it. And, we really thought about it. He offered us the job, and the people were great. We had such a wonderful experience there, the visit. And then we decided, for whatever reasons, that, we're going to sit tight. Happy we did. Right, because Bobby moved on to bigger and better things, and who knows what would have happened to me. And then not long after that, I was offered an East Coast Hockey League head coaching job, and that was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because they used to be the Erie Panthers.
The Ice Gators, or
something like that.
Later? I don't know.
And the person they actually hired was Pierre McGuire.
Oh, shit.
So I had passed on it. Pierre went in, did a great job. And again, it was one of those things, the timing just wasn't right for us, and really that was it. And I've been really, if your phone don't ring, it'll be me, ever since. But no, happy, thrilled that we stayed in Erie, thrilled that we stayed at Mercyhurst. We, as you know, Adam, we had some great runs there, and NCAA tournament appearances, and it was all good. It was all good.
Well, I'll get to a little bit of that. Unfortunately, we do have to talk about what happened. And I've talked to you so many times over the years about all these other memories. So unfortunately, the latest thing with Mercyhurst, the university deciding to drop the program, who knows? Hopefully there's some sort of groundswell that may bring that back, like with Robert Morris happened, and you never know. But I know it kind of hit you like a ton of bricks the way it happened. I don't know what you can say, but it's just unfortunate, I guess, how that all came down.
I'll tell the truth, right? So there are some people that think that because I announced my retirement last May, that somehow I knew this was in the works, and I did not. Okay, I had, like everybody else involved in our hockey program, we had absolutely no indication that this was about to happen or gonna happen or could happen. I was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
As part of the ice hockey committee.
On that Friday morning, and I received a call from someone in leadership at Mercyhurst. Mercyhurst, and it was a quick call, and it was stunning, and it was basically, hey Rick, listen, I'm on my way to talk to your team. This is hard to tell you, and I'm really sorry, but we have decided that we are going to eliminate the men's ice hockey program effective immediately.
Right.
And I think I said like what, or I don't know what to say, or something like that. And she said, hey Rick, listen, I am really sorry, but I need to get into this meeting, and the conversation was over.
Wow.
And that was really it. And then, trying to just deal with, players and families and some media and everything else. And, I don't know the reason why, other than,
Is it obvious? I mean, it's like the obvious answer would be the economic challenges of today. It's harder and harder because we know the money is a pain in the neck in college sports right now. And they tried to go to Division I in all sports, and I'm just assuming there's a lot more economic challenges with that, right?
Absolutely. So Mercyhurst is a small Catholic school, and there's lots of places like Mercyhurst, as you know.
Yeah.
And you're right. So all the sports 2 years ago went into the Northeast Conference. Every sport, hockey, men's and women's, as you know, is just an Atlantic hockey. I believe there was some economics that went into that, both probably good and bad.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't know this because no one has told me any of this.
Really?
At the end of the day, I think it was basically, listen, we need to make some cuts in academics and faculty and athletics to try to save some money, try to position themselves for long-range success in the future. And I think, obviously, men's hockey was a victim of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for fans around the country that are listening, we're here talking about the Frozen Four in Wisconsin and all these big blue blood schools obviously playing in this. Like, what do we care about Mercyhurst, right? Like, they were not having a great year. Who cares? But I try to tell them it's the canary in the coal mine. Like, you poo-poo this now. 5 years from now, 3 more teams might have the same fate, right? And that's what I worry about.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
So I think when a school does this, and I'm not in these conversations, Adam, I'm not in the president's office or the AD's office, and I think when a school does this, I think maybe it almost becomes, I don't want to say a little bit easier for another school to maybe, hey, they did it.
Right.
Should we consider that? And I hope that's not the case, but at the end of the day, a lot of this is driven, I believe, through the through the financial reasoning behind this, and they're trying to position themselves. I disagree with the move, obviously, but nobody asked my opinion on it.
No, clearly not.
Right? And it's how it is. So we're hoping that somehow we could reverse this. I don't know if that's possible, but we're going to try.
Give it your best shot. But it's again, like you hear the phrase "grow the game" to the point where I get kind of sick of it because I hear it from these bigger schools. I'm not going to name, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but I'm like, are you really growing the game if you're not taking care of everybody? You know what I'm saying? So it's great. These schools are getting NHL players, tremendous for college hockey. As a whole, college hockey's best it's ever been talent-wise.
Yep.
But if you're not keep taking care of everybody, then the game's not going to grow. It's going to go backwards.
I totally agree with you, right? And as you know, certainly the Big Ten is the Big Ten. The NCHC is the NCHC. The history and tradition of the ECAC and Hockey East speaks for itself. But there's also a handful, if not a couple handfuls, of very good universities that play hockey at a high level that are just small schools, that are really working to elevate their program.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that the people I have contact with day to day in the hockey world, they've been great. They've been absolutely great. They've always, I remember when we were trying to put together a schedule and, and all those things. And those people were great, willing to play a Michigan, a North Dakota, a Cornell.
Right.
I mean, I can name pretty much every team. I think in my 38 years, I think there's only about 3 or 4 teams that we haven't played against.
Yeah.
And all of those things really helped us at the time at a place like Mercyhurst, because that's pretty cool. Yeah. Nothing against any of the other sports at Mercyhurst to play more regionally. But when you could play, a Dartmouth or a Yale or a Cornell or a Wisconsin or a Michigan, that's a pretty neat thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was something that Mercyhurst took great pride in, and that was a big selling point for a lot of years for our school.
Oh, for sure. And you were here a couple of years ago with me with Bob Daniels sitting in this, very spot at a different arena, but we were kind of joking and not joking about how, maybe you guys should have a development arrangement with Wisconsin because they just took your goalie at the time, and and it's like maybe it's not a joke, right? Like maybe that's the way that, I don't know. Like, is that a possibility?
Adam, I tried.
Yeah.
And I tried with some of my friends that are, and I think some people were a little bit intrigued by that idea, but I think for the most part, people thought that's pretty far-fetched, right? But is it?
Maybe it's not.
I don't know. I tried
Finder's
a little
fee.
bit. We tried to recruit kids by saying, hey, come here for a year,
right?
Kill it, for lack of a better term, right? And go. I mean, they celebrate that in basketball.
I know.
Kids go and they play big-time basketball, and then they move on to
They don't even think twice. I was listening to Rick Pitino, and I'm a St. John's fan growing up, long on. But, all those guys were transfers, just like the Michigan team that won. And it's like Pitino's talking about how, I recruited this kid. I'm like, when he's talking recruiting now, he means from the smaller schools. He doesn't mean from high school.
Absolutely.
Anymore. That's what's happening.
Absolutely. And I hear, and I don't know, I don't travel in these circles, I hear it's not uncommon in, the mid-major basket, every player at the end of the year goes in the portal.
Yeah.
And for a lot of them, if they don't find what they're looking for, they're welcome back to the program that they were in. And again, I think this is the new normal, right? It sounds absolutely nuts to me. I don't want to speak for you.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
But, I think that, this is what they do. Like, they celebrate a kid in a mid-major that now ends up at a blue blood. They send out letters to the fans, the season ticket holders, and they celebrate that. So we tried that a little bit. Obviously we didn't do a great job with it or have a long time trying to do it. But you have to learn to navigate in this new environment.
Yeah. And, we could talk all day about this, and unfortunately, we got a game that's coming up, and I got other guests, but I do really appreciate you being here. But the last thing I was going to say is, I feel bad for everybody at Mercyhurst, but maybe the most of all, Tom Peffel, who is going to take over for you as head coach. I hope, I'm sure he'll land on his feet fine, but how have you talked to him?
Oh, yeah. Tom's a great guy, and again, he kind of got caught up in this. Again, like, you named him the head coach in waiting not even a year ago. And then 2 weeks ago, you took his program away. So, again, I don't have I would tell you if I had more details, and I don't, but I can tell you Tom's doing fine. He's going to be fine. His focus, along with mine, is just trying to help our players find a new home. And I could tell you that, I've been working the phones and talking to alums and community people in Erie. They have stepped up with over $300,000 in about 4 days.
Right.
We think the magic number now is $1.5 million to sustain the program for the next 2 years, and then ultimately maybe come up with north of $10 million to maybe endow the program. Is that doable?
The key, right?
Is that doable? I don't know. People have been great. The alums have been great. I mean, there's some people that have some venom, rightfully so. Okay, but at the end of the day, the alums have been great. People in our community, we've had 2 or 3 people in our community step forward with, $100,000. I mean, it's heartwarming. So we'll see. So right now we're hoping, and I'm happy to be part of this, to continue to try to, talk to all these people and see, hey, if you can give, great. If you can't, we'll still be friends. But I'm hoping, Adam, you would sign up for maybe $500,000 before I put the mic down.
Sure.
I'm kidding you.
If you can find $1 million for someone to donate to us here at College Hockey News.
But it's all good. I'm in a good place. I'm the lucky one, right? It doesn't, I'm done. But 38 years. I would love to see this program not only continue, but even be better. And I think Tom Peffel and the folks that are behind, that could be behind us, could do that. So, again, you'll never get me to say anything bad about Mercyhurst. You'll never get me to say anything bad about people at Mercyhurst. I'm not happy what happened. I'd like to think they're not happy about what happened. But at the end of the day, listen, there's a lot of people in this world that have bigger problems than I do.
Of course. It's all just sport. And along those lines, we got to get to our next guest. guest, but enjoy the games because you know what? The hockey is still fun to watch.
Oh.
That's what I keep saying. I hate talking about all these issues.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I'm going to watch the game, and it's going to be entertaining. So.
Adam, I just want to say something. You've been a great supporter of me personally for 38 years. Our program would have never got to where it was if it wasn't for people like you.
I appreciate
You've
that.
been a great friend.
Yeah.
You and I haven't always agreed on everything, but you've been a great friend.
I remember broadcasting the MAC championship game back in 2000.
Absolutely.
So.
And you know what? As I tell people, careers come to an end.
Yeah.
Friendships continue.
Yeah,
and I've
absolutely.
always valued yours. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Stay in touch for sure. We'll see you around. Thank you very
Adam.
much. Rick Gotkin, Mercyhurst, 38 years. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the game. We're going to bring in our next guest here now in just a second. As we get to, we're going to bring in James Mansfield from Denver Radio and Matt Auchincloss from the Michigan Daily. So let me just bring those guys in there right now. They're going to talk about, obviously, the other game coming up as we get them settled. Matt is Michigan Daily, which is the student newspaper there, which does a phenomenal job. And James Mansfield from Denver Radio, who took over for our friend Jay Stickney, who did it for many years and did a tremendous job. I was going to say, unfortunately, my other headset earphones aren't working, so you have to use the handheld.
Well, I
know
I can hear you.
Yeah, and bring Matt in here as well. I was just pumping you guys up. James, or saying we've had Jay Stickney on this little gathering here a bunch of times in the past. He's like a wannabe stand-up comedian, so you got a lot to live up to on that. But
Jay has reminded me that I have a lot to live up to.
He'll never stop reminding you.
He will not. It reminds me. Jay told me. He said. Jay spent 25 years, broadcasting Denver Pioneer hockey's legend, and I said, Jay, what is the toughest part of following you up? What's going to be the toughest part of my job? And he says, following a legend. And he was absolutely correct.
Jay's a great guy, but we're really happy to meet you this year and going forward. And Matt, though, Michigan Daily, I was going to say, you haven't been around 25 years, but the paper has been around 100 and some years, and I was telling you yesterday, the Michigan Daily is like top of the line as far as student. I always hate to even call it student paper because I remember when I was a student, I was like, you're like almost demeaning me like to say it, but I mean that's what it is. It's student run, but you're independent, right?
Yeah.
From the school. So you guys do a great job, and you've written for us this year. But what do you think of is this your first Frozen Four?
It is my first Frozen Four. Yeah. Haven't been to one of these before. It's my first year on the beat, but I always watched Michigan hockey for a long time, so not the first one I've ever watched, but definitely a different experience in person.
Are you from the Michigan area?
No, I'm not. I'm actually from Atlanta.
Oh, okay, wow. So yeah, people come from all over.
Yeah.
What do you? Did you basketball team, or do you care? I mean, your school winning that.
Always fun when anybody.
Do you
wins
like that? Everyone's calling them mercenaries and stuff.
Listen, if I say coaches take advantage of what they can, and I think that team built a good culture that reflects well on the program, and you can't really argue with a team that's that bonded, even if they come from different places.
It is interesting right now. Denver and Michigan are playing in this game because it feels like, as we talk about all the blue bloods and the money in college hockey, that somehow Denver and Michigan are now like battling for the same recruits, but doing it in an entirely different way. But like I know it's hard to talk about recruits because it's not official. You hear it through social media and stuff. But everything you hear is that like all these high-end guys, Denver and Michigan are battling for it. But Michigan's like, hey, we can throw you, $100,000 to come here. And Denver's like, well, if you want to come here, maybe we'll take care of you later. But but for somehow there's those two approaches are the contest right now. I know you can't probably talk about that much, but it is interesting that they're playing each other.
It's a different landscape, and I think we can both agree that this landscape, everybody is trying to figure it out, right? This year they're trying to figure it out. The upcoming years, I think, as teams try and reload and you start to see players move on in their career and so forth, you're going to see that a lot, and it is a different landscape that I think both coaching staffs and beyond that the administration has to navigate as well.
Yeah, it's such a weird, because Denver doesn't have football, basketball has it, but it's not, Denver's hockey is the premier. So the number one resources are going to go to the hockey team, whereas but it's not going to be $20 million. It's going to be whatever it is. Michigan, obviously most of the resources need to go to football and basketball, but then there's plenty left over still. So like, how are you guys navigating that? Your sense of how the players handle it. I talked to some of the players yesterday. They all say the same thing, like, oh, no, I would come here no matter what. This is a team, we're a team first. Like, it's easy to say, but
yeah,
you got to let that not be a distraction in the locker room.
Certainly. I think that there's a lot of players that are doing that, but I think that Naurato learned somewhat from last year that players that are in that, he's focused a lot more this year on players that can play a role, and to some extent that involves putting aside ego. So there's probably not the same players that are looking for a ton of NIL money. I've also spoken to some scouts that that's not a huge factor driving a lot of players, simply because hockey tends to be a wealthier sport, so the money means a little bit less to some of the players. Yeah. But yeah, I think that there's definitely a factor of that. I think that there's probably not as much as people think there is, and it is more about coaches selling their program and who's better suited for players' goals. But it's definitely not something that we can just completely discount.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to dwell all on the money because you know what? This is going to be a great game. So it's just two good hockey teams. And your time with Denver so far, I mean, you're talking about a program that's built the culture already. So like that has helped, like as this has the landscape has transitioned. I mean, they've had it established. So they can just keep going with that. And I don't know, I mean, to me what makes David obviously is a great mind, hockey mind, but he's got Dallas Ferguson, Tavis McMillan around him, which are veteran. I mean, there's no other staff that has that.
I think you look at that, and that is a huge reason. That's one of the intangibles as we look at this game. We can look at all the players, we can look at all the history, and then it's going to have to come down to you've got coaches doing what coaches do best at this time of year. And it was interesting, David Carl said yesterday in the press conference, talking about what do you do with a team that's on a heater like this? And he's like, as little as you can, not to mess this up. But I think you bring up a really good point. Tavis McMillan has been with the Pioneers for 11 years, and you've got Dallas Ferguson, been there for 8 years. And then let's not forget Ryan Massa as well. Ryan Massa, the goalie coach, who found who is Johnny Hicks. It was Ryan Massa that found him, right. And he's been there 5 years. So that continuity is worth a lot. But I think, Adam, I'm going to go one step beyond that.
Yeah.
And the continuity goes all the way back, and it goes back to a reverence for DU hockey back in the 1950s, all the way to George Gwozdecki winning a couple, Jim Montgomery winning a national championship, and then David Carl. So you talk about that continuity is something that is really valuable to a program. It sells.
Having played at Michigan is a big part of why he coaches the way that he does. He understands what being a Michigan man is. It's something he really pushes to his players, and I think that's that legacy of the program and that continuity of this winning tradition that both Denver and Michigan have is something that these programs take a lot of pride in.
I was going to say, I've now seen Denver win 5 national championships in my lifetime, and I have not seen Michigan win any, because my first Frozen Four was 97, which was the year after they won, okay? And then that 97 year, they were actually number 1 wire to wire and lost the best game I've ever seen. BU beat them in the semifinals 3-2, a game loaded with future NHL players. And then in 98, I had to take a 2-year hiatus because I got a job in the American Hockey League and couldn't make the 98 and 99 Frozen Four. So I missed Michigan winning in 98, and I haven't missed one since 2000. So 5-0, but it's 10-9 all time. Is that something Brandon Naurato has been trying to put? Because I know David brings that up all the time. He wanted to beat Michigan's record so bad, and now he's got to hold on to it.
I think that for Michigan, it's a little bit more internally driven. The fact just that they want to break the drought more than they want to beat Denver, and a side effect of that is that they would tie Denver again. But mostly it's been 30 years since their last national championship. They really just want to win one. They're 8-9 in Frozen Fours, and
10-9, yeah.
Since 2010.
Right.
2011 it was the loss to UMD in the final. So they're really just looking to break that.
And I was
streak.
at that one too, by the way.
Have you considered maybe you're the problem?
I was the sideline guy for Westwood 1 that year, so I was right there when the overtime game winner was scored. But I was going to say, so getting to the game itself, and I only have a couple minutes. I know everyone's busy, but I don't really see any weaknesses on either team. So, none of us here are like X's and O's wizards. But I mean, what do you see as the the key here.
You know, I think you look at this game and you look at what Michigan brings, and Michigan bringing the top scoring team in the country. And not only that, but in their 5 playoff games, they're averaging almost 5.5 goals in their 5 playoff games. So they've just ratcheted that up a little bit. But I think with Michigan, you know, you've got a lot of firepower. You kind of know where that's coming from. Denver, you've got 4 lines. Everybody's contributing. They had 9 different goal scorers in the regionals out of their 11 goals. And you would have thought Polkamp would have had maybe more than one. He had 1 empty netter, and it ended up being
a cool goal.
It was a very cool goal. But you look at that and you begin to dissect this game, and maybe it comes down to, with that much firepower, it comes down to perhaps who is Johnny Hicks and Ivan Kovic.
Almost certainly. I think the fact that they're both 2 small goaltenders is really interesting. Young goaltenders, both freshmen, both 5'10", 5'11". I think that's going to be an interesting matchup because there's not necessarily Ivan Kovic type more pedigree. He's a little bit more a little faster across the net, a little more reflexive, while Hicks is a little more controlled with his skate motion and everything like that. But I think that Michigan's really going to need to limit their penalties they take. That was a problem for them against UMD. It's almost what sunk them, and it's been a problem for them all year. They had restrained it a little bit at the end of the season, but it really came out in that UMD game. It was not a good performance penalty-wise from them. I think that the depth is a good point on both teams. You know, Michigan rolls 4 lines. I think they had a similar statistic about repeat goal scorers. I think Garashishki might have been the only one that was a repeat scorer in that regional. So I think that it's going to be a real battle all the way through, and it's going to come down to the fine margins of the game.
You brought up the penalties just real quickly. Denver takes a penalty in each game, 2 penalties, in that regional. And that was when you say, how do you stop Michigan's power play? You don't let them go on the power play. You do your damnedest. And that's a hard thing to do, right? In other words, how do you not take penalties? You control the game. And if you control the game, hopefully you're not taking those penalties.
This is why I love having another radio pro here. You just teed him right up and brought it back. I didn't have to do anything. It was perfect. It was great. So usually I'm the one having to do that, make sure. But, I guess last but not least, Michael Hage has been banged up, hasn't played a lot. So, he's a wild card, I guess, if there is one. If he's back to being his mid-season form, that's an added, Denver's got a great defense goalie, but Michigan's got a lot of weapons all over the place.
Yeah. Our understanding is that Hage is going to play. Whether how much he plays is going to be obviously up in the air. But on the other hand, he had been shooting quite poorly in conference play actually through most of the season, hadn't scored a lot, but was still producing offensively. So seeing if he can get a goal or even try and drive offense, because he played in the final, but he didn't play much time at all and really wasn't super effective when he was out there. He just wasn't 100%, sat for most of the third. So I think that Michigan beating UMD without him was big for them, but having him back in the lineup is something that is undoubtedly they're going to need against a Denver squad that is as stacked as this one is and on such a hot streak.
Well, when you have someone like Michael Hage, in the lineup, and he's got that ability to find players and get assists. Leading the NCAA in assists, he doesn't have to score. He just has to find the right guy that can put it in, and there's plenty of weapons there. It's sort of like Clark Caswell or James Reeder. And you put Rieger Lorenz on that top line with James Reeder, and all of a sudden he's scored goals. He's got Samu Solomon next to him, and Sam Harris really came alive with Clark Caswell. So you start to put somebody in that role, and a goal scorer is going to find the back of the net.
Well, I'll let you guys go. I really appreciate it. Trying to get to our next guest, and you guys got to get to what you got to do. So, James Mansfield, Matthew Auchincloss.
Yeah, that's going to be the toughest name all day.
I've been working on it.
Say that again.
Auchincloss.
I've been working on it.
Auchincloss. He needs to put it phonetically for us.
No, I got it now. I just needed to hear it another time. But now you're leaving. So, Matthew Auchincloss, I got it. All right. But thank you guys for coming on.
Adam, thank you for having us on.
Enjoy the games here.
Appreciate it.
All right. I got to try to line up our next guest if he's coming at all. Let's see. Oh, there he is. I was just texting because I saw that you left me a message, but I didn't know if. Yeah. So. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So this is we're going to get to a special guest, which has somewhat related but unrelated to the proceedings here, and Brian Slagle from Metal Blade Records. Are you good?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Hello.
there you go. Just got to hold it close.
Yep.
But I got to punch your name in here. So while
is this live or tape?
We are live.
Nice.
Live. So you're going to talk while I type. But I was going to say, why do I have a guy from Metal Blade Records here? Because Brian used to host the the Metal Misconduct. No, which was the name?
Metal Misconduct.
Right. I didn't want to make sure I didn't screw that up. Podcast with a good friend back in the day, Sean Rourke of NHL.com, and you guys don't do it anymore, but that's how I sort of met you, the connection there. But just, how did you meet Sean and get into having that podcast? And I know you're a big hockey guy, but how'd that all start?
Well, it's a whole hockey story, actually. So there was a team in Miami called the Miami Manatees. They were part of the WHA2, which is this tiny little minor league back in the day. And one of my buddies who worked at Metal Blade was from down there, and he got me in touch with the people doing the team. So we sponsored the team. They played our metal music and everything. And the guy that was kind of coordinating everything was this guy named Mark Fischel. Mark Fischel ended up working at the NHL, selling ticketing, and he said, hey, you should meet this guy, Sean Rourke, who works here. He's a huge metalhead. So I got to meet Sean, and we became friends with a bunch of those NHL.com guys. And one day Sean said, hey, we should do a podcast. I go, well, like, what do you mean? Like, we should do a podcast and talk to hockey players. I go, how are we going to get like 15 minutes out of them, let alone like half an hour? These guys don't talk. So no, trust me, when we talk music, they'll be into it. So the first guy we had on was Drew Stafford, who was playing for the Sabres at the time, or the Rangers, I can't remember which team. But he's notorious for doing like terrible interviews. We talked for like over an hour. He knew more about metal than I did. And afterwards, Sean goes like, whenever I interview you after a game, I get nothing from you. Why an hour? He says, because I'm talking about music and I love it. So that's why I met Sean.
That's funny. And just so people know, I know I don't know, maybe you don't get sick of ever hearing this, but, Brian was on the ground floor as a young guy of discovering Metallica, I guess, helping push, them to get a major label deal. I was on you had an original, like, LP.
Compilation album, yeah.
That they were on, the Metal Massacre.
Metal Massacre 1, and
yes.
Rat was on there and a whole bunch of other metal bands, too.
So that's just so people kind of get a sense. It's almost like me, like, everyone in college hockey knows who I am, but, like, if I step out any other world, no one knows who the hell I am at all. Yeah. And, like, everyone in metal knows you, and, like, I'd imagine, like, people here who, like, don't like metal, like, who's this guy? So,
yeah. There's some I'm in the hockey world randomly enough that there's a few, but...
Yeah. But I was going to say, like, I think, to me, like, hard rock and hockey always went together for the longest time. But now, when you talk to players down, inevitably, like, hey, what music you listen to these days in the locker room? Everybody's listening to hip-hop and country.
Yep.
And I'm like, what happened? It bugs me.
Yeah, it's weird because, like rock and metal now is the number 2 most popular genre of music in the world. So, and there used to be a lot of hockey players that would play metal. I mean, one of my good friends, Dan Boyle, played years.
Miami.
I went to Miami, and a lot of those guys. But now they're few and far between, unfortunately.
Right. What is up with that?
But they still play it. I mean, still every game we're going to hear. Today we're going to hear 30 metal songs probably between the 2 games. So,
I
don't know.
In that matter.
Yeah, no.
Do they know
I wish.
You're a season ticket holder for the Knights, right?
Of course, of course. The Knights and the Stars, actually.
Oh, right. Because yes, I know you. But the goal. How long have you lived in Vegas?
So I've been here 9 years now, almost 10.
So that's the other thing I should tell people. I call Brian the mayor of Vegas, but the unofficial mayor of Vegas.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
It's amazing how many. It's almost like I have a son who lives in Nashville, and a lot of rock stars. Recording artists, it's not just for country anymore. They go there. There's a lot of great recording studios. Likewise, this is what I get all the time.
I like it.
But likewise, and I don't know if they record here, but a lot of rock artists have moved here.
Yep. It seems there's a bunch of really good studios out here as well, and it's kind of like Nashville and Vegas are the 2 spots that most like rock and metal guys are going to gravitate towards one or the other because it's cheaper, it's nicer. Certainly Nashville has a bigger scene there, but there's a pretty big scene here in Vegas, especially for rock music, and there's 3 or 4 really good studios out here as well.
I guess I was leading to my question with the players, kids today, quote unquote.
Yeah, right.
But whenever I've talked to you and pushed you on this, like the record business, or the music business, you always were a little more optimistic than I was. That and obviously you own a record label, so you would know. Like it's not as bad as I perceive it to be. The business is pretty good still.
Like I said, recently it's a long story, but basically there's a company that dissects all the global music sales, and right now hip hop and rap is number 1. Rock is number 2, pop is number 3, and country is number 4. So we're number 2, and a lot of that is metal. We have a band like Ghost and Sleep Token, both had number 1 records on Billboard. So it's coming back around. There's a lot of younger kids into it. We got to get the athletes though into it. We don't have enough of those. There's a few, but not enough.
What is your? I know I've read the Jaromir Jagr story, which I mean, if you can briefly summarize that. But like, what is your favorite? Rock and metal, hockey and metal connection story.
There's strangely enough, there's so many of them. I love when my worlds collide. But the Jagr story, really quickly, friends of mine used to work with Stan Fischler, and he floated the idea that I was going to introduce Jagr to Metallica, as Jagger's a huge Metallica fan, and sure enough, I ended up making it happen. So I took Jagr and a couple of Penguins players to meet Metallica when they're in the studio recording Load, but I couldn't figure out who was more excited, like the hockey guys or the band, because like James...
Those guys are big hockey guys.
Oh, huge. Like James Hetfield's going, Jagr signed my hockey stick, and they're freaking out. So that was a lot of fun, but there's a ton of that stuff. And I'm here today, it's in Vegas, which I love, but I'm a huge fan of this tournament. I've been going to this tournament for probably 35, 40 years almost. I used to go to the ECACs in the Hockey East when it was at Boston Garden. I think I've been to 12 of the Frozen Fours.
By the way.
I know. It's on my list. I've been to a bunch of Frozen Fours. I haven't been to one for a minute, so it's great that it's here, but I absolutely love college hockey. It's one of my favorites.
I was going to say my favorite connection on that story is I was working in Philadelphia. I used to work for the Flyers and the Phantoms. And when Yanni Niinema skipped out on a practice to go to a Metallica concert, they did in the parking lot of the old Wells Fargo Center.
I've got a Yanni Niinema story for you. So he was such a big fan. He was a big fan of one of our bands, Cannibal Corpse, and he actually went out on the road with them for like 4 or 5 days. And they're just telling me stories like he would have so much fun. He would actually end up passed out on their bus just on the floor. They'd be getting up in the morning and go, who's like, this NHL player is like lying on our bus floor passed out. So he's a riot.
Are there any who's the last guy that you've gotten to know that, I'm trying to think who,
I mean, there's my good friend Mike McKenna, who played at college and played in the NHL and AHL for years in St. Louis. He's a huge fan, but there's not a lot of younger guys doing it now that I've heard of. There's a couple, I'm trying to think. So the big one is the Flyers goaltender.
Currently?
Yeah, he's got a Metallica helmet.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
Dan Vladar.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He's got a Metallica helmet, like with a whole bunch of metal stuff on it, so he's a big metal guy. But a lot of those goalies are metalheads, but they're very shy. Like Tuukka Rask is a huge metalhead, and we tried for years to get him on our podcast, but he wouldn't do it because he didn't want to really talk about it. Yeah, so there's a few out there, but
goalies are always weird.
Yeah, but I love goalies. They're smart. They know good music.
No, it's every year. I swear, they have the press conferences on Wednesday, and they'll it used to be, Guns N' Roses, Judas Priest. You talk to a player, even though they were younger. Oh yeah, we love that. Nowadays, you ask them that question, they look at you like you have 5 heads.
I've got another good, just to remember this. So a couple years ago, here in Vegas, the NHL does their media days before the season. So the NHL, I've done a bunch of work for them off and on here, thanks to Sean and Bill Price and the other guys over at NHL.com. So they had me interview some players, and they had me interview Jack Eichel, because Eichel's a huge rock and metal guy. Nice. So we were talking about Metallica and like the Doobie Brothers and all this crazy stuff. And I go, how does a guy, you're 26. How do you know who the Doobie Brothers are? His parents. I got good parenting. But we talked for 15 minutes. He was awesome. Yeah. And at the end of it, he goes, this is the most fun I've had in a long time doing an interview. So that you can listen to that, by the way. It's somewhere, NHL.com is it somewhere up on their site.
I'm always trying, because I'm in the locker rooms here, because I want to have that fun conversation, but I know nothing about hip hop and country, so I'm not
it'll come back. I mean, like I said earlier, we're seeing it come back now, where it's the younger kids, because they're older brothers, like hockey player age kids, college age kids now. They're all into country or whatever else, but this generation below that are starting to I don't want to listen to what they're listening to. I want something heavier and more cool. So it's coming back, hopefully.
I watched the Rick Beato channel on YouTube. I don't know if you know who Rick Beato is.
I know.
He's really good at breaking stuff down, and it's like, but you feel like old man yelling at the clouds, because it's always like all this AI stuff is coming in, and look, I remember when I was a kid, my parents thought my music was crap, and now I think kids today's music is crap. But really though, but I always say, like, it's out there, right? Like, if the stuff is out there, it's just harder to find. Like, it's not on the radio. Like, I don't drive to work and hear the same thing every day.
And there's not one place you can go to find it. You can go to, Spotify and iTunes playlists and stuff, but there's not one specific thing yet. But I do find lately that it took us a long time to break bands. Like, sometimes it could take 15, 20 years before you really get a band up there. It's a lot quicker now because the networks of stuff happening is better. And believe it or not, one of the biggest drivers of that is TikTok.
Oh, really?
Like, TikTok is blowing stuff up. Like I mentioned that band Ghost before. They were headlining, they were headlining like 8,000, 10,000 seat arenas. They had something go crazy on TikTok, go viral on TikTok. Now they're selling out arenas all over the world. So the band called Lorna Shore, it's a real heavy band. They went viral on TikTok, and now they're doing like 15,000 seat arenas. So TikTok's driving the younger kids and a lot of heavy music. So
it used to be too where like, if you did like a car commercial, you're a sellout. But nowadays, do you have to do that kind of stuff? Do your bands have to do like video games, like soundtracks?
They're involved in all that sort of stuff. I don't think there's any sort of selling out unless it's like some big corporate thing, more or less. Which they're not going to ask any of our bands to do that stuff. But they're in major movies and stuff, and you just never know. We had famously Cannibal Corpse in the first Ace Ventura movie. And when they were wanting to do that, I go, I'm not sure that's a good idea because they're an underground death metal fan, but they did it. Now they're still massively huge, but it's just now they're in part of pop culture now, so you never know.
As Brian refers to Cannibal Corpse, hopefully not making half our audience run away like with those kind of names. But like this, it's funny because like,
come on, they're in Ace Ventura.
No, but that's what I was gonna say. Like, I grew up a big metal guy. I mean, not so much the death metal and the heavy. Like, I always say Metallica is sort of where I drew the line, but like, what draws me to it was the community and like how almost like tweaking society. Like, it's not what people think. Like, these are like some of the nicest guys, in the world. And I love like
100%.
twisting people into like having different expectation. That's just, I don't know, that's how I always
just to give you an example of that, so I mentioned Cannibal Corpse, right? It was, one of the biggest death metal band of all time, and their lyrics and stuff are pretty crazy. People are like, what are they like? They do crazy stuff on the bus. I go, I walked on the bus one day, and they were watching Oprah. I mean, they're just normal, regular guys.
The only time I was ever backstage at a rock, I had a friend in college whose brother was Tom Kiefer.
Oh, yeah, Cinderella. Yeah.
So this is like late 80s, where I was in college. Took us backstage, and I'm like, oh, we're going to see some hedonism out here. They were lying on the couch watching Mama's Family.
Yeah. That's how exciting backstage in the buses are these days. Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, look, there are stories. There's plenty of stories, but
more so in the 80s than now. But yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about before you go, and I appreciate it, I want to get to your seat, watch this game. It's going to be great games. Is that you have this jersey collection? You still have that?
I still have it. In fact, I have an entire house out here that houses it.
How does that work? Like, is it just a museum, basically?
Kind of. I just got into collecting hockey jerseys in the 2000s when eBay first started, and I could buy game-worn minor league jerseys for like $10. So I just started amassing this collection. At one point, I got up to almost 3,000, and I purged about 800 of them and gave them to my good buddies at Violent Gentlemen, and we just we sold them for cheap for charity and all this sort of stuff. But I still have over 2,000. About 800 of them are game-worn, and they're anywhere from college to minor league to NHL, all over the place. I've got sticks, I got pucks, I got, you name it, I got it.
not that you're looking to sell this stuff, but I mean, what would be considered the most valuable?
It's a good question. I mean, I've got a signed Gretzky. It's not game worn, but a signed Gretzky All-Star jersey from New York. That's pretty good. I got a signed Lemieux jersey from when they won the Stanley Cup. I got a signed Yager jersey from the same time. No, those aren't game worn, but they're still pretty rare jerseys. So those are pretty rare. I've got a Gordie Howe signed jersey, which is a whole nother crazy story. Some band wanted to get signed to Metal Blade, and their family knew Gordie Howe.
Oh, right.
So they had him autographed. So probably those were probably the most value. But some of those game warns now, even the minor league stuff still goes for a lot of money. It's crazy.
Well, listen, I appreciate it. I'm like the players because I talk about hockey all year long. So whenever I see, I want to talk about music, and you want to talk about hockey because you talk, So, but I appreciate the chat. Enjoy the game.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So good.
Always
luck.
Good to see you, sir.
Yeah, we'll see you again later, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right, that's Brian Slagle, Metal Blade Records. I appreciate it. We're going to get back to breaking down the games here. So thank you very much. Enjoy. Oh, look at this guy, Mark Diver, shaking my head. What are you doing here? Come on. You got to sit down. You have to pay your way in here? Oh, all right. Yeah, no, good. All right. Yeah, Mark. You guys chat. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, no, I'm trying. I got people always trying to talk to me. You know, when I was in the minor leagues, I tell this story all the time that, I'd be broadcasting a game and people trying to be handing me beers around me. I'm like, I'm working here. You know, I mean, I don't know what you do in your job, but it's all good. Hockey fans are the best. And listen, I love listening. Like I said, I could talk to Brian Slagle all day long. And because, we talk about hockey all year long. And then I met Brian. I mean, the guy is, I got to tell you, famous in the music world. But you wouldn't know that unless you're in it. But just tremendous because he loves hockey, and it all goes hand in hand as far as I'm concerned. So, kids, go listen to Judas Priest. If you're out there listening, you'll thank me later. Don't listen to whatever you're listening to these days. Hey, Anthony can step in here. He's been helping out. Great job producing, helping me. As we'll see if any of our other crew shows up here at the end of the show. But we'll get some predictions, which are, you should never listen to us on that either. And we are in the city where you can bet on anything. So, again, don't take our advice. This is not gambling advice. But, of course, nowadays you can bet anywhere. But it's weird in Vegas because, you have all those apps that you can bet with, but you can't do any of that in Las Vegas, believe it or not, because they actually have their sports books, and that's where you have to go. So, it is what it is these days. Probably for the best. It's in sports these days with all the gambling that's going on. But so this is just us breaking down the game. No gambling advice. But Anthony, what are you hearing out there? What's Wisconsin and North Dakota? First of all, you've been following North Dakota around. What's the scuttlebutt out on the street?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of we're all in the same camp, and maybe a little surprised that it is Wisconsin here. And I know we already talked about it on the show earlier, but I just think it's going to come down to can Wisconsin stay out of the penalty box, and they have the second worst penalty kill in the nation, but they take a lot of penalties as well. I think they have like the fifth most penalty minutes. So if Wisconsin's going to win this game, they have to keep it 5-on-5 for as long as they can.
Yeah, I mean, look, that I hate to say it, comes down a lot to the goaltending. The defense was banged up over the course of the year. Those are crazy Sioux fans, by the way. They will never give up that Sioux. It doesn't matter. They're called the Fighting Hawks nowadays. You don't see one jersey that says Fighting Hawks on it. They all say Sioux on it.
My introduction to North Dakota hockey, I think, was one of my first regionals covering in Albany. And they were there, and I walked into a bar before the game, and I've never seen so much green in my life.
I tell you, they're everywhere. That is for sure. It's funny, like, back in the early 80s, the Badgers were known for their big fan bases and traveling. That was the big one. And Michigan was not great then. I mean, they became good again later when Red Berenson came in. But over the years, as North Dakota started winning championships and, the money came into North Dakota, the Ralph was built, their traveling fan base just overwhelmed everybody else's. So, I mean, they've sort of overtaken the Badgers here. And we'll see, the Badgers, they're playing them. And so we'll see. I mean, my first experience of the Frozen Four is 1997, as I said. And North Dakota was in that. They weren't considered like a power at that time because they had kind of tailed off after Gino Gasparini. But then, they had won the championship in 87. But then tailed off a bit. And then Dean Blaze built it back up. And so they weren't quite there yet, but they were in the Frozen Four. They beat Colorado College, I believe, in the semifinal. And BU beat Michigan, that classic game. And then BU didn't have anything left in the tank. And North Dakota won that championship in 97. But it wasn't the same. I don't remember it being. What I remember the most about that was the BU and the Michigan bands going at it, like back and forth. So, but then, 2000, North Dakota won again. Those are my first 2 Frozen Fours. And then 2001, BC beat North Dakota to get the revenge, and then off we went. But anyway.
I think, too, like, with North Dakota, I think sometimes they don't get put into that college hockey powerhouse that maybe some of the other programs do. And, as we see all these jerseys walking around here, you see a lot of Taves and Oshie, and, you can't forget that they've had players who have gone on and had tremendous careers in the NHL. And I think maybe it's a program that doesn't maybe get the respect that some of the other ones do, because they've certainly won their handful of national championships.
Absolutely. So, breaking down, getting back to that, Mike Hastings has built this team in his own image.
Yep.
And a lot of that is literally the players he brought from Minnesota State. Christian Fitzgerald and Simon Tassi are both seniors now. They are second and third on the team in scoring. Fitzgerald with 9 power play goals. You just look at the guys that he's relied upon, and it's not, the blue chippers, and that's always been his MO. Now, like I said, I think in the future they're going to have their ability to do that, but not quite yet to the level of some of the other Big Ten schools. And I think they're going to try to be careful with it. If, Mike Hastings, again, that's doing it any other way would go against all his principles. And I think nowadays you can combine the new way and the old way and be effective.
His hand might be forced a little bit too. I mean, if you want to compete in the Big Ten with the Michigans and the Michigan States of the world, and as we know, Penn State, you have to be willing to dish out the money. And it's funny, you mentioned the Minnesota State transfers, and I remember, as soon as Hastings got announced at Wisconsin, and you look at the transfer portal list, it was Minnesota State to Wisconsin, Minnesota State to Wisconsin. It just kept rolling and rolling. So, no surprise there, but those guys that they've brought in, they've played a big role in getting Wisconsin to, Vegas here today.
All right, well, the other game, too, of course, Michigan and Denver, which, these games are both intriguing. And like I said, we talked enough all year about all the money and all the transfer portal and all the changes in college sports. So now, it's time to just focus on how cool these games will be, no matter what you feel about, the worry that I share with many people that all these big schools will be the ones forever now and the unions of the world are never going to get a chance to break through. I'm just going to enjoy these games for what it is, because, really you couldn't get, better matchups as far as this year is concerned. And the other one, it's really intriguing to me because Michigan and Denver, as I was saying, it's hard for people to, James Mansfield, works for Denver Radio. It's hard for him to say, because you're not supposed to be allowed to talk about recruits yet.
Right.
But, everything out there on social media and stuff is Michigan and Denver are going after 2 of the biggest recruits in the country this year against each other. I just find it kind of funny how they have, the 2 most national championships, but, going to do it completely differently, where Michigan is, giving a lot of, money to players here and there. Not a lot, not crazy money, but a significant amount. Denver's not really doing that yet, but they might start doing it. I don't know. It's just very interesting. They're both going to be up there playing in the same pool for players, but kind of doing things a little differently. But maybe Michigan has to, like you said, they're going to have to learn to. They're not going to just be able to,
Right.
Look, they're here with a team that doesn't have 5 first-rounders like it did in 2022.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a little bit different of a makeup that we've seen from Michigan over the last few years, and their recent trips to the Frozen Four. And in terms of those 2 recruits, maybe they can have an agreement. Whoever wins today gets the 2 recruits and make life easier for everybody.
I wonder how much of that, because Denver made a big fuss about wanting to win that record, past Michigan.
Yes.
And now, does Michigan, do any of the players really think about that,
That's a great question.
We got to get it back, I always wondered, to me, the biggest difference of all these things we talk about in college sports, and this is the one thing where last year I wrote about this after Western Michigan won the national championship. When you have teams of players that come and go very quickly, do they have the same attachment to the school? where those little intangibles, like I'm going to die for my school, like I believe these guys all care,
right?
And they all want to win, and but like some guy who's been around for 4 years as a third liner just has like blood and guts, for their school. That I don't know if that matters or not.
Yeah,
but I always wonder about that.
It's a great point too. It ties into what you just said about when Denver won number 10. That was a really big sticking point with them. I mean, I remember being in the locker room after they won, and everyone's throwing up 10 fingers, but yeah, they had players like Carter King, who had been there for a while, not these guys who come in and are one and done. So I think there's a little bit more passion and desire when you have those kids who have been here for 4 years. Back then, some of them 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's hard to find any weaknesses in these teams. Michael Hage has been hurt. Obviously, that we'll see if he's limited. Denver has certainly had their injury issues, but it all turned out fine for them. I mean, that doesn't always happen. The number one being their goalie, Quentin Miller, who, from what I understand, is okay now, could play if he had to. So he's now the number 2. But Johnny Hicks took the job over when Miller got hurt in late January and has a .958 save percentage, which has been off the charts, obviously. And the other guy that was banged up was Eric Polkamp, the Hobie finalist defenseman, who at one point in like early January he might have been leading the country in goals. He wound up leading defensemen in goals. He has 18, but he's only had 2 since January 24th, which is the weekend that Johnny Hicks first started. He had 2 against St. Cloud. But that was also the weekend they were trying to get, him to start focusing more on defense. Not that he was a bad defender, but because I think early in the year, Polkamp had it in his mind that, this team doesn't have a lot of high-end scorers like it used to, so I have to be the guy to go. Mm-hmm. And he was, and he's great at it. But but their defense was like, at the time. It's as a team, not him. And then when Hicks took over, it's like, hey, okay, now it's time. And Denver's done this before. They've had years where they were like lights out offensively, even when they had those great forwards. And then middle of the year, David Carlin says like, okay, guys, it's time to start focusing on defense. Right. And if you remember 2 years ago, they won the national championship. Every game they allowed 1 goal.
1 goal.
They won 2-1 every game.
It was an unbelievable run. Yeah.
2-1 every game. So this is what they do. And so what happened was it hurt Polkamp's numbers, but they haven't lost since.
Right.
So you can't argue with it.
I think too, you mentioned needing Polkamp to play more, defensively, and I think just with the speed that Michigan has, and I know recently they broke up Polkamp and Buckberger there on that D pairing, and I think you're going to see a lot of those two rolling out back to back to try and slow down that speed of Michigan, because they don't have those first rounders they've had in years past. But I was really blown away, seeing them in person in Albany with that speed. And as you mentioned, that was without Michael Hage, who was injured. I think he played just under 7 minutes in that second game and sat out against Bentley. So you're adding him back into the mix, and the team gets a little bit faster there. So he's certainly going to have to be. What was the word that Carl used yesterday? Abrasive. Multiple times used the word abrasive.
That's what I love about it. I mean, I've pumped his tires all year long, but that's what I love about the kid, because he plays with an edge, and he's in your face, but he's also in your face offensively. Takes the most shots of anybody in the country, but when he plays tough, he does not take penalties. Look at his stats. Last year, he only had 22 penalty minutes.
Yep.
This year, he had 33. But 15 of that was in one game where it was like some goofy misconduct. And 4 of them were in the game against Duluth when he was not 100%. And I thought, and again, they always hate talking about injuries, but I saw him get hurt against Western Michigan, and I know he wasn't skating 100% for a couple weeks. He told me yesterday that he's fine. He's 100% now, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But the penalties he took were because he couldn't position himself properly, because he couldn't push off his left foot as well. And so if you take that out of the equation, you're talking about 11 penalty, 15 and 19, 14 penalty minutes the whole year. it's actually remarkable that that's what he does. So, again, I think the world of him. We'll see. I really hope he is 100% because then the world will get to see grade A Eric Polkamp, and he can give Michigan fits. They're not used to seeing a guy like that coming out of the back line. Even no matter all the good teams they play in hockey in Big Ten, there's not a guy like that.
Yeah, and you mentioned his penalty minutes. It's impressive. I mean, he's averaging over 23 minutes a game, and that's a lot of time on ice, and to not be taking penalties. I mean, obviously you need your best defenders out there, so him staying out of the box is impressive. And listen, San Jose, they got a steal in the 5th round. He's just been so consistent with Denver in these 2 years, and I think we're going to see a lot of him today. I think he'll be much more north of 23 minutes.
All right, we got to get out of here. So thanks to Anthony for helping out. Thanks to all our guests. The game's about to start. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll do this again on Saturday, 2 hours prior to the national championship game. Then, please don't forget to check out collegehockeynews.com for all of the articles, coverage, and stats and figures that you need to follow the Frozen Four here. We'll see you. So long.